Alright, it appears that when I got into that little part about NOAA, I'll just read it again. The recent appearance of the atmospheric rivers language in an article published by NOAA, government agency, NOAA, National Oceanic Atmospheric, whatever it's called, on January 15th, 2011, fulfills the forecast for this term, which was in past WebBot reports as manifesting during this time. This is not a good sign. That's about when my camera cut out. I think when I said that, my other camera must have had a multiple doomgasm and failed. It couldn't withstand the doom I just spoke. Actually, the battery died. So, I will continue. The atmospheric river phenomenon was described in the WebBot reports as leading to a very widespread flooding across the southwest and northwest and central plains of the US of A. So this was like what they call a, what is that word that they use? Not a precursor. In other words, this is a point in their timeline. When this happens, then X, Y, and Z is going to happen. And if we got the dates wrong, it doesn't matter. Wait for that time frame. When you see this event, then you know this is coming soon after. Anyways, the atmospheric river phenomenon was described in the past reports, leading to a very widespread flooding across the southwest and northwest and central plains of the US of A. The Terra entity continues to show that toxic contamination, including waves of radiation, will be problems for humans and animal life over the next 3 years. The data sets are supported at the primary levels by accumulation of radiation exposures. The radiation subset is cross-linked over to the Space Goats Farts entity, where the termination sets are within the large archetype of unknown energies from space. The terminating aspect attributes within the Space Goats Farts entity includes irradiation of space metals and confusion, and he's got parentheses, mental short circuits, and destruction of mental capacity. These aspect attributes are focused on space-based events. However, there are Terra-based linguistic sets that include airplane radiation exposure and inclusion of radiation within daily concern. This last set has extensive crosslinks over to the global population entity and some small crosslinks over to the populous US of A entity. And in both cases, the termination sets describe broadcast media trying to warn and prepare the populace for radiation from space. Some of the detail layers provide the image of TV stations and a new position of radiation forecaster within the daily minutes devoted to broadcasting radiation alerts. Kind of like a weather channel. There's going to be another guy. It might even be me, Dr. Doom, saying, you know what? We got a little bit of, whatever class radiation up here. If you're in this area, you may want to stay out or stay indoors right now, or you'll be cooked. Won't be too pretty. Something like that. I could see myself doing that. You know what I mean? I don't have a hard time laying the truth down on people, smacking them around with the truth. You know what I mean? That's just what I do. So, and to talk about that for a minute, another WebBot hit. I did a video on this probably several months ago. It's in YouTube. It's in my channel somewhere. And one of the older WebBot reports talked about how there's going to first be a cause of concern from this radiation from space coming in. And it's going to mainly be, you're going to hear about it eventually at the ground level, people. But when you're in an airplane, there's going to be cause for concern for pilots who have been up there, as well as passengers on the plane, saying, hey, wait a minute, we've got this radiation problem right now. The sun and the earth, they're doing some weird stuff. More radiation's coming in from the sun than normal. It is kind of harmful to people. So we may have to ground flights or lessen the amount of time people are in the air, or maybe, I don't know if you could fly at night, if that makes a difference or not. I don't think it would, but it may. Anyways, I did a video on this. Sure enough, a scientific paper comes out in the news. I think it was a UK article, mainstream site, talking about scientists are all of a sudden concerned with exactly what I just told you. And that's what prompted me to make the video, to say, hey, wait a minute. It was about a year and a half, 2 years ago that the Webbot report reported this. It's only today that the scientists are talking about this little phenomenon they're worried about all of a sudden. The Webbot could not have possibly read that on the internet somewhere, 2 years ago on millions of different sites, and then say, oh, we're going to store that as a keyword, because it was posted somewhere. That was a solid prediction, even though it's a cause for concern. It made it on the news. They talked about it, but it's not quite here yet. But it is now. It's fixing to be, because this report's telling you we're getting real close to this here, taking place. The Terra entity also has extensive internal crosslinks for the radiation from space being at least temporally associated with large area fires in a number of places on the planet. Sorry to say that the fires of a type described as near lifelike, self-regenerating, will be affecting Australia, large parts of northern China, south and western Siberia, southern central Canada, central and deep southern USA, and he has Texas through to California, and Louisiana through to the Atlantic. South America, including upper reaches of Amazon river tributaries. And then he says high mountains, vertical fires on a hillside. The fires subset is specifically temporally linked to the unknown energies from space, which I guess is kind of good. At least it's not a nuclear war, but then again, it's kind of the same thing. From space, and is, in spite of the nature of the fires, not even close to half of the emotional impacts that the floods yet to happen in 2011 will bring. So let's read that one more time. The fires subset is specifically temporally linked to the unknown energies from space, and is, in spite of the nature of these fires, which is devastating, not even close to half the emotional impacts of the floods yet to happen in 2011. So if you think, oh, we got this radiation problem from the sun, it's terrible, it's killing crops too. By the way, older reports had a lot of detail on the effects of crops failing miserably due to extra radiation from the sun cooking them, basically. A lot of details from what I remember in that report. Anyways, the data sets show that Western Europe, including Ireland, Greater Britain, will be swept by unseasonal wind-driven storms over much of 2011. The data sets are filling with aspect attributes for wind-creased crops and flooded croplands, as well as other early warning words of a bad harvest for 2011. Further, Europe is described by the data as being separated by a waterline that has implications for both drought and fires to be rapidly felt when the nominal summer arrives. The descriptors would seem to be painting a picture of Europe split from the northwest to southeast, with the western half exceptionally wet, buffeted by storms, and the eastern half exceptionally dry, as hot airs are drawn north by aberrant jet stream winds and exceptionally low pressure zones in the far north. The data sets forecast that neither of these conditions will be good for food supplies and increased demands for foods as 2011 progresses will become a certainly felt / realized meme at a planetary level. Again, we note that hole needs to be considered. HOLE, hole in the ground. I don't know. And again, if you find that there's kind of some things that almost fit this data that happened in 2011, now we're in 2012, really weren't. I mean, there's a couple issues with food, but not really what you were expecting based off of what I just read you. Don't throw it out as, oh, that's a failed prediction. They don't always get the dates and stuff right. I think it's pretty clear right now, seeing all these floods, seeing all these massive weird weather problems, ice freezing stuff, the fish die off, the bird die off, seals dying off, 200 octopuses washing ashore the other day, bunch of whales washing ashore the other day. I mean, something huge is happening here. That's for sure. So anyways, in 2012, maybe it'll be worse than what this thing is even talking about. Then again, it may be spot on with 2011. Just keep this in the back of your mind in the worst case. If you don't believe any of it, fine, but just kind of keep this in the back of your mind as some thoughts. As part of the Terra entity's rapid and somewhat alarming growth of aspect attribute sets, a group of linguistics under the archetype of toroid, T-O-R-O-I-D, toroid, shows that multiple magnetic poles will form/appear around the Earth, and that these will cause chaos with all forms of electromagnetic devices. The aspect attribute sets include descriptors for failures and even explosions as multiple magnetic poles appear. These will apparently just pop into existence one day and be a painful part of the environment from that point forward. The painful subset is extensively cross-linked over to both the global population and the US of A population entity, where the effects subset is hugely diverse. The effects include personal human pains, which I would assume maybe would be anyone experiencing too much of that radiation, whatever, as in nerve vibrations that will induce some crippling pain. Further, painful subsets are within larger types of effects such as trains, electrical diesels, planes of all types, excepting perhaps the secret shadow government's re-engineered space alien technology, maybe he's just being funny, and automobiles failing, as well as electrical devices of a wide variety that will become operational failures in the sense of not being accurate or working only part of the time. The other subsets within the supporting chains for toroid Terra energy field misbehaving point to the sudden appearance